Cubs fans, and welcome to a brand new edition of Cubs on Tap. I am Ron Luce. I am joined by none other than the handsome human to technically my left on the screen, but is actually to my right on my screen. It's Tyler Edmonds. Buddy, first off, how are you doing? And secondly, happy Thursday. It is officially the weekend by On Tap Sportsnet standards.
It is. In some places, what is it, like Australia? They're already a day ahead of us. So, for all our Australian listeners, happy Friday, happy weekend. Ron, I'm good. Plans got changed today. I was going to go to, you ever heard of Old Hickory Bat Company? They make, bats for players like, you may have heard of Mike Trout, Juan Soto. Anyways, they're like a stone's throw away from like a Justin Steele fastball away from my house, like maybe an hour, maybe. And I was going to go take a tour today, and they don't do tours no more. So ended up just doing some things around the house. Went to the landfill, which was, oh my gosh, it was money out there. And then went to Lowe's to look at Christmas trees with the wife. And let me ask you a question. I'm going to start. You know what? You asked me how I was doing. I've got to return it with a question for you and for our listeners. And I've talked to this about my wife. I know you will talk to this with you will talk about this with your fiance and your future wife for years to come. And everybody else listening, guys, you know what I'm talking about. How soon is too soon to put up a Christmas tree, Ron? Because, what do you think?
So I've got thoughts.
Yeah.
Mama Luce, loyal listener of Cubs on Tap, and my mother loves Christmas. Absolutely loves Christmas. This woman lives for Christmas. Like, it's her favorite holiday. It always will be, and I understand why, because it's togetherness and family, and her birthday's in December too. I think that plays into it a little bit. Loves Christmas. Christmas trees went up this past weekend at Mama and Papa Luce's house.
Okay.
So they're hardcore. She's very slowly decorating. It's just the trees. It's just the bare tree and lights. That's all it is. My mom likes the lights. And I think there's a lot of hope in lights after we turn the clocks back like we have. And you go through kind of that like lack of daylight kind of, I don't want to call it depression, but you're just like, man, I miss the sun. I miss it warm and going out and doing stuff. Like, the lights give you hope and they're pretty, and like, so I get why she loves it. And so it's already up at Mama and Papa Luce's house. But I'm a fan of even when I was living at home and I was a kid and things like that, we always put up Christmas trees early. Like, it was like, sometimes it was day after Thanksgiving early.
Okay, no, that's cool. Hey, day after Thanksgiving is great. Yeah, that's fine.
The later and later in life, especially probably the last 10 years, we put up Christmas stuff a week before Thanksgiving.
Okay, that's not.
And it usually was just the basics. It was just like a couple of Christmas trees and some lights. That's all it was. It's always the lights. It's always been the lights. Again, my mom loves lights. So I think the sweet spot is like, you're starting to get the stuff out of storage like the week of Thanksgiving. I think that's the sweet spot. Yeah. So that way you are ready for Christmas by like the Sunday after Thanksgiving. Yeah. I think that's the sweet spot of like, we are full blown ready for Christmas. 'Tis the season, fa la 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 la. Be jolly, make gingerbread houses. Like, yes.
Yeah.
As soon as December comes around, because I'll tell you what, Tyler, as somebody who loves sunlight in summer, we're all baseball fans. We all love sunlight in summer. The worst time of the year is January and February. And I think that's why we love Cubs convention and spring training so much, because it gets us through. But like, thankfully, we have the holidays when we're really getting into it's cold, it's dark. The lights truly do help, and the Christmas spirit. So like, you want to get that up ASAP. But I think just after Thanksgiving is perfect.
That's not a bad time. I agree. I don't know. I have some family. I have one family member. I'm not lying. It was up after trick or treating was done.
Dang.
Yes.
Like fast.
Yes. Oh yes, she's and which just like my mom, and just like your mom, big time Christmas people really like putting it up early too. So I was just wondering because me and my
Yeah.
wife in that debate tonight at or the other night at Lowe's, and yeah, I just wanted to know what
Which
other people think.
which side do you teeter on? Which side does the missus teeter on?
Oh, she's an early bird for sure. It's not
Early
up yet,
bird.
but it's coming for sure. Yeah.
It's coming for sure. I
Mhm.
get it. Again, it makes people feel good. I get why. Like, I will never get upset about
Well,
somebody if they want to put it up early. But if you are one of those people that truly wants to appreciate every single holiday in its fullest, I
mhm.
think just after Thanksgiving is the way you do it to literal perfection, to still
Sure.
appreciate stuffing your face and watching football all day and doing all that good stuff on Thanksgiving and then being ready for
Yeah.
Christmas.
Well, you said it best, and you know what? It ties in with what we're talking about tonight.
It
You said the
does.
lights give people hope. Ronald, I'm looking for hope this off season. I don't know about you, but I am looking for some hope.
I am also looking for some hope, and we are going to dive into that at its fullest here on this show. And appreciate everybody with us 7 minutes in. We had to get the Christmas tree talk off the chest. Let's get into Cubs baseball. Tyler, we got to address news before we get into the things that we spent about 40 minutes pre-show, kind of warming up with for the show
Oh yeah.
here. Cody Bellinger opt-in. That was the big news over the weekend. Obviously, this is our first show since the last time you and I recorded on Halloween night. This kind of limits the Cubs now. But I want before we get into the real nitty gritty and deep stuff of how do the Cubs upgrade and things like that, which is the meat and potatoes of today's show. Just initial reactions when Bellinger opted in. What were your thoughts? How do you still feel about it almost a week later?
Not I personally I was not surprised at all. We talked about it last week. I don't think there was any other team out there that was going to give him $27.5 million annually. Yeah, he probably could have got him he may have could have got him a more total number and maybe a couple of years, but he wasn't going to get 27.5 million anywhere else. So in my opinion, he took that opt-in, which we all talked about it last year when they signed him. He can do this.
Mm-hmm.
So anybody, oh my, because what surprised me more was people saying that he could possibly opt out. I think he took this contract just like his first contract with the Cubs. He's 29. I think he'll be 30 next year during the season. I believe that's he's 29 now. I think he'll be 30 next season. So I think he took that opt-in as almost like his first contract, which was a $10 million prove it deal. And this is basically the same thing, but a $27.5 million prove it deal. He still has an opportunity to make a large contract next offseason. I don't think he's going to match what he did in 23. I'm hoping he does better than he did in 24. I think a lot of that has to do with he was out for a little bit. Maybe he can find a nice little middle between those two seasons and earn himself a contract. But yeah, like you said, it does limit what they're going to do this offseason now. But it doesn't surprise me because it's 27.5 million up front. Nobody else was going to give him that. I don't see it. So yeah, I wasn't surprised.
I'm with you there, Tyler, and I'm not necessarily upset that Bellinger's back. I think Belly just had a regressive year, and I think we all expected it. But truly great players in baseball have a way of rebounding and putting up more respectable numbers the year after. Bellinger did it. I mean, the guy's an MVP. The talent's very clear, right? In a good Bellinger year, if we get maybe not 881 OPS Bellinger, but if the Cubs get 865 OPS Bellinger,
Yeah.
that's awesome. If you have him and Seiya, who was almost an 850 OPS player on the roster, you probably have enough offense with how good the starting pitching staff is, how good we saw the bullpen could be late in the season to probably get something done and maybe have a chance to win. Again, we get it. It's calculated risks in baseball, especially when you have a super team forming right now out in Los Angeles with the Dodgers.
Yeah.
I'm right there with you. I expected Belly to take the money. I think what worked out for Chapman is that Matt Chapman was the best offensive player on that team. They still had a solid season. He was like almost an 800 OPS player.
Yeah.
And they said, you know what? We'll give you the $20 million a year for 6 years because we can afford it. And we think
And
you're going to be able to do
had
enough for
one of the
us.
highest. He had one of the highest WARs in the National League this year, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he jumped on that dude, and he's comfortable in San Francisco.
Yeah.
And he's familiar with that manager too. So I can't blame Matt Chapman.
I can't blame him either. It worked out for them. I applaud Belly for saying, hey, you know what? I had a rough year, and the Cubs were nice enough to give me this opportunity. I'm going to take advantage of it, but I need to fix things. And if he has a better season next year, I think in hindsight, we all sit here and go, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
It's just we know what kind of player Bellinger can be. It was just unfortunate that in 2024, he was a 751 OPS player, not the 881 guy from the year prior. Or even if he gave you that 845 to 865 OPS, that's still going to get this team really fucking far if that happens. So, again, I've seen some commentary from friends of ours here at On Tap Sportsnet, and we love them dearly nonetheless, and we appreciate the jostling. I'm not mad that Bellinger's still a Cub. I just think that was the only place if they were going to tangibly and easily, and we're going to talk about why we say easily as the show goes on, tangibly and easily going to improve the lineup, I think is the proper word here. Not necessarily going to fix all the flaws of their lineup every day, but at least gives them the opportunity to really make the big splash. And that's why I think a lot of people felt that way. Tyler, speaking of moves that have already happened early on, you get some rare early off-season signings, guys that just want to get signed, take care of business, are happy to take whatever kind of money they can get. Maybe it's older veterans, which typically is what it is. Guys, maybe extending with teams, as we saw with the Braves, with guys like Reynaldo Lopez.
Yep.
The Cubs watch the professor leave, but he's going home. There's a solace in where he's going and why he's going there. Kyle Hendricks agreeing to a 1-year, $2.5 million contract with the Los Angeles Angels this week. He's going home. He's got family ties to that team. His dad worked for the team, I believe, for like 6 years. There's a lot of he's just going home. Maybe this isn't the last season. Maybe it is the last season for him. Just to, have fun pitching around family, things like that. And maybe he pitches well enough to go ahead and move on to a contender late in the season next year. Maybe that's how he rides it out if it all works out. And then he is a Chicago Cub for life and comes back to the organization and has a position here, as was mentioned through Bruce Levine today on Marquee Sports Network. Tyler, your reactions to Kyle Hendricks signing the 1-year deal?
Like you said, he's always going to be a Cub. I think we all could agree at the end of this past season that it was probably Kyle Hendricks' last year on the team, just production-wise, where they're going as a team, where that pitching staff's going, what they need to add. And I just don't think there was going to – if they're going to do what we want them to do this offseason, realistically, there wasn't going to be a spot for Kyle Hendricks, I don't think. I'm happy for him, though. I'm glad to be honest, I thought after this year he may have called it quits. So I'm happy for him. I'm happy he found a place in LA. He's joining former teammate and World Series champion Jorge Soler. Maybe that's what Mike Trout needs. He don't need Shohei. Maybe he needs 2 former 2016 champions to get that team in the playoffs. You never know, Ron. Maybe that's what does it for the Angels. But, happy for Kyle, man. He's always going to get a standing ovation in Chicago. I'm not sure if they play. I can't remember if – I think LA comes to Chicago this year because I think – didn't they play at Anaheim last year or this in 24?
I think so.
I think they did. So that would be cool to see him come back. But, yeah, I'm happy he found a spot because I just didn't see him fitting on this pitching staff in 25.
Agreed. Wouldn't that be incredible if all it took was Jorge
How
Soler
crazy.
to Kyle Hendricks to get Mike
Yeah,
Trout to the playoffs?
that'd be nuts.
It would be quite the story to say the least. The Angels were actually here this past year, Tyler. Now that I remember it, they were
Okay,
here 4th of July weekend. So the Cubs are
that's
in
right. Yeah,
Anaheim, and they're not in Anaheim until August. So it's very, very
so he
late in the
may not.
season
Yeah,
that go
he
to
may not
Los
even
Angeles.
be there.
He might not even be there. So
Yeah.
honestly, the next time he comes back to Wrigley and gets that ovation might be as a retired player. Maybe it's with a contending team in the second half of the season. Who knows? Agreed with you. Kyle Hendricks, just one of the best. And
Such a
hey,
nice guy. I got the first Cubs con we went to. I got
sure
to
thing.
ask him. I got to ask him a question, and we talked about golf. I told him that I said, "Hey,"
Boring golf
I said, "Ian Happ said you played boring golf." I was like, "But I tell you uh, what was it? An under 90 pitch game
is
against the St.
not
Louis
boring.
Cardinals. Some people would consider that boring, but it's pretty freaking cool." And it was cool. It was a cool moment, and he just
It was
And
that.
so I was just thankful and lucky to get to ask him that. He just seemed like a real genuine guy.
I think we need to resurrect the Cubs on Tap CubsCon documentary. We made the first one, and that made the cut. We'll have to share that link around in the comment
Yeah,
section of this episode, just to rehash that out because that was a fun moment and
it was.
that was pretty cool. That was pretty cool at the end of the day when it's all said and done. Yeah, Kyle Hendricks, awesome for him. I have a Hendricks jersey. I might even wear it to the
Of
ballpark
course.
next year. Of course. I know I'm a sicko. I have too many jerseys. That is neither here nor there. Tyler, we have gotten past the news, and just like Daniel Barry Sports Highlights here, I want to encourage everybody, as they say, "What's up? What's up? How are you?" Join the comment section because this is when we are going to have some good fun.
Did you say Dingleberry Sport?
No, Daniel Barry Sports. Did it
I
sound like
swear I
Daniel
thought
Barry
you said
Sports?
Dingleberry Sport. Sorry, Daniel.
No, sorry about that. Sorry about that. I
What's
am
up?
rushing. I am rushing through my words. So if it sounded like something wasn't meant to, I apologize. But Tyler, we need to get into the rumors and the what
The
ifs and
rumors.
the real meat and potatoes of the show and what you and I are both excited to talk about here tonight. There's a lot of trade rumors out there involving the Cubs, Tyler. Namely a few of the topics here, and we're just going to kind of let this run wild. Owen Casey may be a part of trade conversations. Or Seattle and the Cubs potentially being trade partners, as discussed about with the GM meetings. We've also seen a couple of other reports. The Cubs are going to target top of the rotation and back end bullpen help. Can they still manage to fix this roster? That's kind of where we're going with the total feeling of the show. Rumors and reports that Bregman's willing to play second base for somebody in order to get a big contract here in free agency. And in addition to that, could somebody like a Nico Horner get traded? Could a Matt Shaw get traded? Could the Cubs get ultra aggressive? And we've seen some things that we've talked about internally and have been published externally and are going to be published externally. We'll preface that a little bit later. But Tyler, just where are you feeling right now? Like, what sense of the reports and rumors right now do you get that says this is where the Cubs are going this offseason and where you feel they're going to go and try and really improve the team?
I think kind of like what we talked about last episode. If they're going to make moves, most of them are going to be through at least for hitters, it's going to be through the trade market as much as I'm going to beat the drum, and I'm going to beat the freaking drum until the guy has signed somewhere. As much as I want them to get Juan Soto, it doesn't look like that's freaking happening. But they've been rumored with the Mariners. It felt like kind of last year too, or sort of at the end of last season, they were rumored a little bit with the Mariners. And yeah, Nico's a name that's been danced around. The problem in my 2 cents worth opinion, he's coming off of surgery. I think we both figured I believe it was a leg injury, some type of leg issue that he was dealing with. Don't know how serious it is, but that's Nico's game as far as his speed. If something like that is affected because of that, that obviously hurts his value tremendously. Last season being an off year, I know he picked it up maybe the last month and a half of the year. The value there, I don't know what you get with just a Nico Horner, especially with the Mariners. You look at the Mariners, and the first thing you think of is that freaking 3-4-headed monster rotation they have between Castillo, George Kirby, Logan Gilbert. They've got Bryce Miller, the young guy that I want to say was one of their top prospects.
Brian Wu.
Brian Wu. I don't think a Nico Horner alone is going to get you some big pitcher, at least out of those 5. The thing with the Mariners is, yeah, we talk about prospects. Yeah, Owen Casey's been danced around, and other guys as well, Alcantara. With the Mariners are going to want an offensive player that's ready right now. And if you're going to trade a guy like Owen Casey, you're going to ask for a big guy like one of those big starting pitchers they have right now. I don't know if the Mariners would want to give up one of those guys right now for a guy that may need a few more years in the minors till he can come up to the majors. So there's a lot of questions. There's a lot of things that need to be figured out with Nico. With that being said, me and you talked about it on the pre-show. I don't hate the idea of an Alex Bregman. I think you've got to have that, as far as Alex Bregman coming to Chicago, you've got to have that conversation with him. And I think everybody is. If the whole second base rumors are true, you really want to sit down and have that conversation with him to see that look, man, are you sure you're comfortable with playing second base? Because you're a Gold Glover, you just won it last year. You're a 2-time World Series champion. You've made it. You've earned your spot in the majors. And maybe he is, maybe he isn't. A guy that maybe you dance around other than a Nico Horner being traded could be an Isak Paredes, a guy that's a former All-Star. He hit 30 home runs in 23, and he's still got time. He's still got a couple of years on his contract. Maybe he's a guy. I think he has Nico has one more year on his contract, 1 or 2, and Isak's got 3. Maybe.
I believe, and this is with nothing in front of me, Nico is in year 2 of his
new deal,
3-year deal. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So, he's going to go into year 2. So he's got 2 more years, this one and next one.
Maybe a
Paredes. Paredes, I think Paredes has 3 years of arbitration control.
Gotcha.
I think that's how it plays out.
And maybe that's something you use to dance. I know they just got him last year. You give up Christopher Morel, and you said it. You was on the Morel train last year. You were one of the first guys I heard last offseason banging the Morel drum. We saw, things didn't work out. It goes to Tampa Bay. Maybe Paredes is a guy that you dance around and try to, if you get a Bregman, maybe you leave Bregman at third, and maybe you just hope that Nico bounces back and has that 40 plus stolen base year in 23, as well as he had a super high contact rate. I think he led the league in the lowest strikeout percentage, lowest, I think, swing and miss and stuff like that. Maybe you hope that last year was just a fart for him, and he comes back next year. But as far as right now, dancing just Nico Horner alone around, it's going to be really difficult unless you throw in a guy like Owen Casey. And if you do, then you've got to look at it as, is it going to be worth it to this team to get one of those pitchers if that's what they end up doing with the Mariners? Is it worth giving up a Casey right now? Unless you're so high on him, maybe there's somebody else like an Alcantara you dance around with. So I don't know. Just you danced around Nico's name at the ballpark last year. Mm-hmm. And we both sit there and said the same stuff. Like, yeah, right now, Nico may be the only guy, but I just don't know if he's the guy that moves the needle for a lot of teams yet.
I think that's what's so interesting about all the reports we've seen so far. I fully believe the Cubs are going to target a starting pitcher and bullpen help specifically late inning bullpen help. I know you and I kicked around the idea in the Cubs on Tap Chat. We talked to a friend of the program, Jack McMullen, about it. Maybe a Camilo Duvall from San Francisco.
I would love that.
Maybe he's in consideration. Maybe you re-sign Jorge Lopez, who's one of your only free agents on this Cubs team right now, and maybe you pair those two with Porter Hodge and a couple of other names to make a really nice bullpen for next season. You add to the top of the rotation, besides a Shota Imanaga and a Justin Steele and a Jameson Tyone and a Javier Assad, you replace that spot for next year for sure, and you have young pitchers with a ton of talent that you don't have to rush. And if they get healthy and they become really good, then you can make hard decisions. But that's a good problem to have if it gets to that point where Cade Horton and Ben Brown and Jordan Wicks are forcing themselves into conversations. You have guys that have proven themselves. Isn't it funny that Javier Assad is the guy that comes out of all this as a guaranteed rotation arm versus the Ben Browns and Jordan Wickses of the world? But neither here nor there. I think if this team's going to get creative about updating their team, it's going to have to be through the trade market. And it might be for pitching too, but especially if you're going to update hitting, as Darren says here, Paredes is under control through 27. You just traded for the guy. Is it counterproductive? Maybe a little bit, but like if you get the right move, I get it. Sometimes you just got to pull the trigger and move pieces in order to take a calculated shot. He's movable. Nico's movable. Outside of that, Michael Busch is movable, but I think they like what they got out of Michael Busch last season, and they're not mad about what he brings at first base. You still have Cody Bellinger on the roster who can play first base. You can have an impact fourth outfielder on the roster potentially when it's all said and done. You still have Seiya Suzuki. You still have PCA going to roam center. You got Hap. Like there's certain guys that feel locked in, and it feels like if they're going to really update this lineup, third base, if you really feel like moving on from Paredes, maybe second base if you move on from Nico. Certainly getting another catcher to supplement Amaya is probably the other spot. That's kind of about it. I think trading Busch would be counterproductive. So, where do they go?
Let's not. I know. We also say, as far as there's guys in the outfield that have their no trade clauses. That doesn't necessarily mean though that you can't trade them. It's just got to be.
It just takes extra effort.
It does. It's just got to be a convincing enough move. It's got to be a convincing enough place. But again, that's just another thing. That's just another issue that they'd be handcuffed with is that no trade clause. But I know it's easy to say, oh, they've got a no trade clause, so they're not getting traded, and that's not necessarily the case. But like you said, it's going to probably take a little more convincing.
You know what I'm surprised? I don't think that we've ever seen in sports. And I'm wondering if this is just not allowed in their contract structure. A team be like, hey, we really like so-and-so player. Like, really like so-and-so player.
Mm-hmm.
We want to trade for them. And we know they have a no trade clause. But let them know we're willing to restructure their contract to pay them more money.
I'm glad you said that because I had a shower thought. Something similar to that.
Okay, talk to me.
Just no trade clauses in general. Do you think there should be a rule if your contract is either like a certain amount of money or above a certain percentage of the league minimum or something like that, or if your contract is below a certain number or percentage, whatever, should no trade clauses not be allowed? You know what I mean?
See, you're saying if
you're a guy, Bryce Harper is, Bryce Harper I don't think he has a no trade clause in his contract. I don't think he has that $13 million deal, or maybe he does. He has a $13 million. He has that 13-year deal where it's like, I'm here. You guys are paying me a boatload of money. I'm here. Maybe he does have a no trade contract, but let's just say you pay a guy a boatload. You're just paying him a certain contract. It's like, okay, we're paying you this amount of money, but guess what? We can trade you if we want to. Whereas, okay, you took a team-friendly deal. Would you like a no-trade contract? You know what I mean? Like, and I know it can't be just based off that, but I just wish there was a way around some of these no-trade clauses that, because you've got certain guys. You remember who was it? Eric Hosmer, who kind of And you can't blame Eric Hosmer because I think at his time he was on the Padres and he was going to have to get traded to the Nationals. And at the time, the Nationals was kind of poo poo. And so he was just like, no, I'm not going to the Nationals. But then it's like, dude, they're paying you, you're getting X amount of dollars. You're getting like, I don't know what it was at the time. So it's like, you're going there. I guess it would be different if he was on like a league minimum deal or a veterans deal, whatever you want to call it. And it's like, oh, you don't, okay, I understand. Okay, we can't trade you then. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think that's where it's interesting because obviously the purpose around no trade clauses for guys is they want that stability of you can't send me anywhere. Like I want to be here and I want to stay here because for these guys, I think a lot of people lose sight of they have families. They don't want to
Yeah.
move young kids and
And
be
I
constantly up and moving. Like that's hard. It's a grind to constantly move. So the no trade clause is protection when they sign these big contracts that, hey, I'm locked in. I can be content. I'm comfortable. You earn that right when you get to that big contract. That being said, I think what you said is interesting because I think there is such a thing as the greatest of players not having a no trade because they know they're not going to need it, or the guys that say like, well, I had a really good season, but like, I don't know if I'm going to put that numbers up. Maybe that is a career year for me. I think it's the unpredictability that scares players because you could get hurt and never play again. You know what I mean? Or you could get hurt and not be the same player ever again and then get traded a bunch of times. And then you got to uproot your family as an older player. And like, so there's external factors. Cause I look at Bryce Harper's contract. This guy in the first 2 years of that deal was only making like $11.5 million
That's crazy.
in the first 2 years. Then it bumped up to $28 million. He's making roughly no lower than 23 and a half, no higher than 28 in any of the years since. He's currently in a year where he's going to make $27.5 million. His average on the luxury tax is 25.38. If we're being honest, his contract was team friendly for what
it was. Their owner told them when they made the World Series, he was like, I should have paid you more. he admitted, he was, I can't remember, it wasn't
because he's just that good.
Yeah. I can't,
like
maybe it was their GM or somebody, but he was like, he said it on the broadcast.
The owner said it. Yes,
I should have paid you more.
Like sometimes guys are just like that, but not everybody's Bryce Harper. And I think that's where they tried it. This is it's a leverage play. Hey, I'll sign with you maybe for a little less money if you don't trade me other places, right? And you can't trade me. Because to an extent, with a player like Dansby Swanson, not a shot at Dansby here. I've just seen a lot of chatters on Twitter boards, and I actually responded to a couple of them that I don't want to say upset me. I don't want to make it sound like I like look down on people in Cubs Twitter, but I just want people to get some common sense here. It's a business. Sports is a business. If you're paying Dansby Swanson $177 million over 7 years, so what, 25 or 27-ish million dollars a year to be a really good defensive shortstop. Like he should have won the Gold Glove. The fact that Tovar won, I think, is a little bit of bullshit. But that's neither here nor there. And like an average, like a painfully average bat in the major leagues, that much money. Nobody wants that contract. That's why you can't trade him. His no trade is at this point a formality because nobody wants that contract. And that's okay. He's still an important player to the Cubs and what he brings. But that's the risk that you like. The no trade almost might be for some of these guys a formality because you just say, look, you're probably never going to exceed the value of giving you
next year. You can't trade me.
Exactly. Like none of these, they make too much money to the point where if they're not good, nobody wants them anyway.
Yeah.
Versus, other ways it goes. Darren says here, he says, you can talk to a player with a no trade clause, but no terms of trade can be spoke until current team is in conversation. Of course, you can. Would you ever, you like it here? You want to stay here? At that point, you might as well be like, hey, we want to talk to so-and-so. Can you give us permission? Because we are interested in trading for him. And then you can maybe move the no trade. They get moved. Let me preface that. Like they do get moved. It happens. It does happen. But like certain guys are not moving. Dansby's certainly one of those guys.
No.
I think of any of the guys on the Cubs that has a no move that somebody would maybe approach the Cubs about and saying, like, would you be open to letting us talk to them? Maybe Seiya Suzuki, maybe Ian Happ.
Yeah.
Those are probably your two. Outside of that, everybody else is kind of locked in.
Yep.
So that's something they need to talk about. Tyler, I want to get your thoughts because I want to give some love and some shout out to the Cubs, the Locked On Cubs guys. Matt Cozy has been in our comment section before, has supported us immensely. A really nice guy, appreciates what we do. Certainly we appreciate what he does. He and Sam do over at Locked On Cubs. They were talking about big time additions. And Tyler, this is a video I need to publish. I've been sitting on this since June. I've got thoughts in terms of trade ideas for the Cubs, and I need to publish it. But one of the guys they mentioned on one of their most recent pieces of content, and it was Kyle Tucker. Yeah. And how you get that kind of guy in the building. And the need just, I think the overarching message was what attracted me to the conversation the most. The Cubs do need a star bat. Like, that's what they miss. Like, Seiya Suzuki's a really good player. Don't get me twisted. He was still like, a top 25 guy in OPS this year. That's awesome. But if you want to be truly one of the competitors, you need one of those top 10 to 15 bats in the league with maybe a top 25, 30 guy as well to really be a truly competitive lineup and actually have a chance. How in the world can the Cubs get there, do you think, this offseason? Do you think there is a crazy trade in the cards? Because, again, we're sitting here saying, well, the Cubs can only do this. They have to get better via trade if we're talking lineup. Do you think Jed actually goes that route and tries to pull that off? Or do you think it's just status quo in the pitching staff and run it back?
Ron, there has to be some kind of crazy move like that. There has to be. You can't, for the third straight season in a row, run it back. You just can't. Like that, Kyle Tucker. You unload the farm system for a guy like Tucker, and then you get him in the office. You say, hey, what's it going to take to get you to stay here? Because that guy right there, just 2 seasons ago, was being compared to Mike Trout when Mike Trout was healthy. The dude had 30 stolen bases in 23. He hurt first half of this season, but came back and finished strong. The dude he's a superstar, game-changing type of player. And he's a guy that, I would put some of your top prospects. I would throw in Owen Casey. And whoever else in that kind of deal. Like our guy Scott here said, maybe you throw in a ready now outfielder. I don't know if they would want to add a guy like Ian Happ. I'm not sure. Maybe they would. But yeah, he's a guy that I would do that for. But yes, to answer your question, there has to be, because again, I'll say Juan Soto 50,000 more times this offseason. It blows my mind. I don't care that this outfield, because that's the thing. And I'm saying this about Kyle Tucker too. If you get Kyle Tucker, your outfielder is still going to be overloaded. Don't care. Maybe a Michael Busch is thrown in that trade. As much as I like what Michael Busch did this last season, if it took Michael Busch to get Kyle Tucker, you're giving up Michael Busch to get Kyle Tucker. But as much as I want them to get, Juan Soto, that's not going to happen. I hope, as much as I want it to, they have to have a move, some kind, and maybe even more than one, some kind of crazy move for a Kyle Tucker, for a Vladimir Guerrero Jr., for maybe even a Jose Ramirez. I don't know. I'm just, spitballing crap at the dartboard. You have to. I don't. And in your last season, your last possible season as GM, running this, I just don't think running this team back for the third straight year is going to get you your job back after 25. I just don't think so. And so, yeah, I think there's got to be that crazy ass move where everybody else in this division is like, oh shit, okay, the Cubs are going for it this year. Because as we've said for the past several, this division is wide. Well, I say it's wide open, but obviously it's not, because Milwaukee has just teabagged everybody in this division. But you've got, I mean, you've got Cincinnati that just got Terry Francona. He's a guy that has shown in the past he can get guys to click, and it wouldn't shock me at all if the Reds was as much as I hate it. The words coming out of my mouth, they're going to be they could be a playoff team. You got Milwaukee. Milwaukee's going to be a Milwaukee. Milwaukee's going to be Milwaukee, even if they lose Willie Adames, even if they lose Devin Williams. It don't matter. They're going to figure it out. St. Louis is a shit show.
Isn't that annoying?
It's so annoying. It's so annoying.
Can we pivot and go down this rabbit hole really
quick?
Sure,
let's go down it.
I was talking tonight to somebody that I've worked with in the past, somebody that I think value as a friend, but he's from St. Louis, and he's a diehard Cardinals fan, but he is the only level-headed Cardinals fan I've ever met in my entire life. But we talk baseball.
We have the same friend. We have a same friend that's a St. Louis.
You have to have one. You have to have one. And he and I talked just tonight, literally like 2 hours before our show this evening. And we were talking about the outlook of the Cardinals and how, they're talking. Wilson Contreras is supposedly going to play first base in 2025. That means Goldschmidt's certainly not coming back. They might trade Arenado. Like, it feels like
Arenado to the Dodgers rumor that anyways, go ahead.
I don't love that. I don't love that at all. But that's the thing, is that's where that franchise is. The Central has never been more winnable than it is now because it's just the Brewers. That's it. Let's be real. The Pirates and the Reds are going to be the Pirates and the Reds until they show us otherwise. And I know they have talent, and maybe they give it a shot. But this is still a winnable division at the end of the day. And that's, I think, what makes me so upset about what the Cubs are doing right now.
Oh, I agree. It's the same. You just said it. We say it. It seems like we've said it the last 3 years. The NL Central is the most winnable it's ever been and forever. But on that same token, I was going to ask you this question close to the end of I guess it'd be a good I'll wait because I'm going to ask you something on closing thoughts as far as just everybody else in the Central. But it's like with the Pirates, for example. I know you said that about the Pirates. I just got a prediction about a team in this division.
Guys,
about a move that they could potentially make, but I'm going to ask you the question at the end of the episode just to see if you're anyways. But it's like what Scott says right here. No one is untouchable this offseason if they want to actually compete for a title, and that is so true. There's not. There's really. You have to make a groundbreaking deal if you have to. If you've got to change up what this lineup and roster looks like next year, I say do it. You got to do it. But as far as running this team back, it's not. Ask the Brewers. It hasn't worked so far. They've got something figured out. And so worst case scenario, make that groundbreaking move or two that all these other teams in the division are like, man, F the Cubs, dude. I mean, because like they didn't do it. They didn't do it in the lineup last year, but when they signed Craig Counsell, everyone was kind of like, oh, F the Cubs. Damn it, they're going to do it this year, and we've seen how that went. But maybe they make another trade like that, another move, like for a player that gets people talking like that. And I think that's he has to do that. To do that.
I think that's what's kind of interesting that you bring up, because if you think about Craig Counsell's tenure in Milwaukee, he had a lot of influence on how the team was built. Last year he didn't, and that's just because that's what a lot of what he inherited.
Yeah.
Is this maybe the offseason where Counsell gives his 2 cents and maybe a lot of pieces are moved and things get crazy? I think that's why Isaac Paredes stays. I think he might have been a Counsell kind of guy. Maybe this is where we actually get the Counsell effect is coming up here in 2025. Because if you think about his time in Milwaukee, his first season was not successful. But then that's when you started to see them put together good years. And there were years that, things didn't necessarily go the best, but they flipped it around quickly. It's that ability to turn it around quickly, I think, that made the Brewers and continues to make the Brewers such a dangerous team. I think that's where the Cubs are trying to get to, is how do we quickly turn this thing around in order to continue calculating having shots, right? And having that go at the postseason.
I just hope that you brought it up as far as Craig not being involved last year with the makeup of this team. If you noticed last year, a lot of the times in the second half, it's like he said he needed better players without saying that, right? And so I'm hoping, who knows, maybe I hope he's talking. Surely he does anyways, but I hope he's really sitting down or on the phone with Jed all the time about, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? What do you think about that? What do you think about a Willie Adames? He supposedly said he could be willing to play another position than shortstop. Just throw me a former player with you on the Brewers. Not that I'm screaming for Willie Adames, but who knows? Maybe. But just to say it again, there has to be a move, more than one, but at least one just groundbreaking. Oh shit, this is the headline on MLB Network tonight, today, whatever. This is the talk today on all your baseball shows. Wow, the Cubs did this. Is Tucker that? God, that would be awesome. I would love that. Could Vladdy be that? I would love that too. We talked about that last year during the whole show. Where's Shohei going? And we all thought he was going to go to the Blue Jays. And
how do you feel about Pete Alonso?
Pete Alonso. Okay, I'll just say, I was going to ask you this as far as what move, other than the Cubs, what's one move in this division that you see happening? And I was going to say, I think Pete Alonso would be a great fit in Pittsburgh. Yeah. I would like to see, and that sucks to say that because they're in our division.
Could Pittsburgh afford him though?
Well, I think Pete Alonso isn't going to make as much as we think, but also I don't think he's going to make that super big giant contract. Maybe he makes like some type of 4-year type, close to what, $30 million a year, if not maybe a little bit less than that. I don't know. But as far as on this team, I don't know.
Are you calling Scott Boras a liar who said that the quote unquote bear market that usually happens with first baseman won't happen with Pete Alonso?
What do you mean as far as like, do you think
so? Bear market, it's a negative market on first baseman. Unless you're a Freddie Freeman, most first basemen don't make a ton of money in baseball. No. He says that Pete Alonso will not be that way. So he's going to have a very hot market. Do you believe Scott Boras that he's going to make a lot of money?
Can you believe anything that Scott Boras says right now? Because all he's doing right now is just he's stirring that pot. And I get it. If he was my agent, I would want him to do the same thing. I'd want him stirring that pot for me as well. I think he's a guy that gets a similar deal. Maybe he gets a, dare I say, a Cody Bellinger, Matt Chapman type deal, as far as you make this much right now, and then maybe you opt out next year, or you had that opt out. You know what I'm saying? Like, is there something similar to that? Maybe, I don't know, but I just don't see him making a long-term type deal. And I know you're a Pete Alonso guy. I don't know if he does it for me. I just I'd rather see him trade. I'd rather see him trade for a Vladdy or a Kyle Tucker. I'd rather see that. I really would.
I agree. I hear you. There's so many ways they can go. Darren says here, one for Aiden starter, 2 solid pen arms. Scour MLB for a solid catcher with control in part with some of the farm. Could be at least worth 10 wins over last year, and then they could still make a trade before the deadline. I agree. Like, this Cubs team only needs a couple more pieces. Like, there's a good foundation here, but you need more.
Somebody else in the comments, somebody earlier, was it maybe in Austin? He said a guy that doesn't get talked about a lot, because he had his Tommy John, is Shane Bieber, former Cy Young guy. Maybe he can bounce back. Maybe
he's a cheap 1-2 year signing that if you're the Cubs and you say, hey, we trust our development of our young pitchers,
another guy,
he's the type of guy that could come in.
Yeah, another guy I'm high on. If the whole them not going after Corbin Burns is true, Walker Buehler. I think the
Yeah.
Dodgers are going to. I think the Dodgers are going to do everything they can to get him to stay. But Walker Buehler's another guy. Yeah, he kind of struggled a little bit during the season, but the guy has been there, done that in the big spots. Nate Eovaldi's a guy that just opted
Yeah.
out. He's a guy that one of us between me, you, Juice, Joey, and Nick was saying as far as picking him up. Was it last year or no, the year before last when I think he ended up going to the Rangers. But people in Cubs land was hollering for him. But I wouldn't even hate more than one starter. I mean, look at the Dodgers. Look at your World Series champions right now.
Yeah.
99% of their opening day starting rotation was not on the starting rotation in the playoffs. They barely skated by as far as their rotation. Yeah, that offense, was great. I think Yamamoto is going to have a bounce back year. You're getting Glasnow back. You're getting Dustin May. You don't know about Clayton Kershaw, Tony Goslin, and that one guy, Shohei Ohtani, is going to be pitching next year. And I'm going to say it right now, if the Cubs don't go after Corbin Burns again, I know sounds like they're not, even though they should. It would not shock me at all if they added Corbin Burns, and that's crazy to say because they already have like this freaking five-headed dragon super team. But if that's what it takes, that's what it takes. They don't give a crap. They'll figure it out. And so I wouldn't hate the idea of them adding 2 starters.
Yeah. I agree there, Tyler. I'll tell you what, there's a lot of crazy shit.
There's a
going
lot
on
of
this
crazy
stuff.
stuff.
There's a lot of stuff. Scott here from Iowa says Brent Rooker, Guerrero Jr., 2 guys Cubs could trade for. And then he also follows up saying Boris trying to stay relevant. If he screws up like last year, he might be out of MLB as a power.
The problem with Rooker, Scott, is one they can say whatever they want about. I know the A's said they're not going to trade Rooker, but the thing with Rooker is he a good enough outfielder to be? Is he a better outfielder than Seiya Suzuki? I mean, I watched him, and he had 40 home runs. I would take the 40 home run if he was even the same outfielder as Seiya. I would take the 40 home runs over that. I just don't know. I don't know. I don't know if he's a guy that they're gonna. It'd be nice to have It'd be really nice to have 40 home runs on your roster. I just don't know. I don't know if Vladdy would be awesome.
Vladdy would be awesome. There's so many pieces to go. We're going to continue to stay on top of the rumors and the reports. We can't wait to continue to make these shows over the course of the offseason. Of course, when the Cubs do make moves, we will report them. Tyler, final thoughts before we start to wind the show down here.
Oh, man. Well, as far as a lot of the big names, I don't see like the Soto and the Burns. I don't think those guys are going to sign anytime soon. Hell, it wouldn't shock me if it was after Christmas. But whatever Jed has in mind, and it sounds like it's going to be on the trade market, do it early. You've got to do it early. Even if it's the first, even if you make the first move, do it early. Go out, get what you want, and make a splash. You have to make a splash. Have to, because again, you can't run this team. You can't run this back for the 3rd straight season and expect a different result. What's that phrase, Ron? Doing the same thing? Doing the same thing over and over?
I believe that's the definition of insanity.
Yeah. You do the same thing over and over and expect a different result. It's insanity. And also, Jed, it could mean losing your job.
That's true. I like what Scott has to say here. Be bold.
Be bold.
Go for it. Literally.
You're the $4 billion Cubs. Put your big nutsack money sack on the table and say, bam. Here it is. We're the Cubs. Come over here. Like, use that to your advantage. Do it.
Just let them know what's up, what's going on, and go make a big move. Tyler, I'm right there with you. I am just ready for something to happen. I need baseball. I wish baseball off season was quick and fast like all the other sports. Like I want the chaos for like 2 weeks. Just give it to me 24/7, 365. Not this like we're always on watch all off season, and some guys don't sign until the end of January. Like I can't take it.
It's like you're trying to find just these. You think of these just crazy what ifs in your head. You get on PlayStation, you get on Xbox, you do the GM stuff yourself, and you make these super teams, and you're just like, see, I did it. It was easy, Jed. Look at it. Look what I did. And you drive yourself crazy because I'm like you. I wish there was I wish as soon as it ended, bam, let's go. Let's get it going.
Just get it going. I'm excited for it as well, Tyler. Want to remind everybody before we get out here, Cubs on Tap. 1 or 2 shows here at the On Tap Sports Network covering the Chicago Cubs. Check out our friends over at the Dingers Podcast at Dinger Cubs on the socials. Check us out as well at Cubbies on Tap on the socials. I am at Loose on Tap. Teddy Freddy 270. Follow all of our co-hosts as well. Juice is making the plans. Joey is enjoying post-marriage life. Most of us got to go to that wedding. That was a good time. I don't think we've actually actively talked about that on the show. Awesome time at Mr. Joey Ricotta's wedding. And in addition to that, be sure to follow all of our other friends as well here as well with Juice and Nick. Bulls, Bears, Blackhawks, you know the drill. Follow the On Tap Sports Network. And yes, Cubs fans, you got friends that like the Southsiders even still, and so do we. Send them to our friends over at Sox on Tap, and they can be friends. OnTapSportsNet.com, at OnTapSportsNet on the socials, the OnTap Sports Network. We're going to check out what's on tap in Chicago sports. Tyler, this was a blast, my friend.
It always is.
We have so much more to talk about this offseason. Be sure to tune in with us. It's going to be a fun offseason. Lots of guests. Of course, we're going to cover all the moves that happen. It sounds like it's going to be another CubsCon year. We'll get that officially figured out before January, but expecting a lot of good fun and good times here at Cubs on Tap. Tyler, what do you say, buddy? Get out of here the only way we know how?
Ron, I normally end this by saying F the Cardinals. And of course, F the Cardinals. I should have said it sooner. Guys, girls, happy Veterans Day coming up. Take the time. You know a veteran. You see a veteran anywhere. Take the time out of your day to say thank you. Again, F the Cardinals, but seriously, thank you. I know we got veterans that listen. We've got veterans that are Cubs fans, baseball fans. Thank you. And just seriously, take the time this weekend, every day. You see a veteran, shake their hand, thank them. But also on that note, F the Cardinals.
I love that, my friend. And of course, happy Veterans Day, and let's go Cubbies.